Accusations of rigged games, favoritism toward the Las Vegas Aces, and systemic officiating bias have sparked national outrage, with fans and analysts flooding social media demanding answers. Stephanie White didn't wait for the smoke to clear. She lit the match. After watching her Indiana Fever squad fight tooth and nail through a semifinal series that often looked more like a battle against the whistle than the opponent, White stood before reporters and did the unthinkable. She publicly called out the league's referees and demanded a full investigation into officiating bias. Not behind closed doors, not in a press release, live, on the record, with receipts. Her message was clear. This isn't just about a bad night or missed calls. This is about systemic issues that go beyond any one team.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The free throw disparity, the non-calls, the repeat presence of certain officials in controversial games. The pattern is impossible to ignore, and White had the guts to say what many around the league have only whispered in private. The stakes couldn't be higher. The WNBA is in the middle of a breakthrough era. Viewership is up, new stars like Caitlin Clark are pulling national headlines, and the league is finally getting the attention it deserves. But all of that progress is now under threat, not from the outside, but from within. Stephanie White just forced the league to pick a side. Either uphold the integrity of the sport or risk losing the trust it's worked so hard to build. And this time, silence won't cut it. Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, shattered the silence that most coaches in professional sports are taught to maintain. After her team's loss to the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals, she stood in front of cameras and made it absolutely clear. Something is seriously wrong. The officiating wasn't just inconsistent, it was suspicious. Her call for a full league-wide investigation into officiating bias and potential corruption wasn't just about a few bad calls. It was about the very integrity of the league. And she wasn't alone in feeling that way. Fans didn't need to hear her speak to know something was off. They saw it in real time. They rewatched it in slow motion. They clipped the worst calls, shared them online, and the videos exploded. The reaction wasn't confusion, it was outrage. Clips comparing identical plays from both teams went viral. Aces players drew fouls on minimal contact. Fever players got hammered with no whistle in sight. The moment social media began piecing together the foul disparity, 31 free throw attempts to the Aces' favor, it became impossible to ignore. That kind of discrepancy doesn't happen by accident. And in this context, with stakes this high, it can't just be dismissed as part of the game. When one team gets that many more opportunities at the line, especially in a playoff series where both teams are playing physically, questions must be asked. Why were the Aces consistently rewarded while the Fever were punished? Why did the referees let clear fouls go uncalled on one end, but whistle every touch on the other? Stephanie White decided she wasn't going to stay silent, because silence would mean complicity. Her players, like Lexi Hull, who played through injuries, and Aaliyah Boston, who battled in the paint with unmatched grit, deserved better. This was their shot at a championship. Their performance should have been the headline. Instead, it was buried under officiating controversies. This isn't new, either. The WNBA has a history of officiating issues. Inconsistent calls, missed reviews, and one-sided decisions have haunted key games in previous seasons. Players and coaches have hinted at it, expressed frustration privately, and sometimes in cryptic post-game interviews. But nothing this direct, nothing this public. Stephanie White's demand for an investigation broke the dam wide open, and fans backed her immediately, because they've seen enough. They've watched big market, star-heavy teams benefit from whistles that smaller market, rising teams don't get. They've seen the Aces get every benefit of the doubt, and whether or not the league wants to admit it, there's a clear perception now. The playing field isn't level. That perception, real or not, is deadly to a sport built on fairness. Especially now, as the WNBA is finally growing. This league is gaining national attention. New fans are tuning in. Ratings are climbing. Players like Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and others are becoming household names. That growth is the result of years of effort, advocacy, and relentless talent. But one scandal like this, one wave of widespread distrust, can collapse all of that progress in a matter of weeks. And the problem isn't just the controversy itself. It's how the league responds. So far, silence. No comment. No statement of accountability. No indication that there will be an investigation. But here's the problem. Staying quiet isn't neutral. It's a message. It tells the players that their effort doesn't matter. It tells fans that their concerns aren't valid. And it tells coaches like Stephanie White that speaking out comes with consequences, not change. That's not leadership. That's negligence. Stephanie White's stance wasn't just about officiating. It was about trust. She said what every player and fan has thought at some point. If the referees are influencing the outcome of games, intentionally or not, then the sport loses its meaning. These athletes spend their entire lives training, sacrificing, and competing at the highest level. The very least they deserve is an equal shot. If a team loses because they didn't execute, that's sports. But if a team loses because the officials tipped the scale, that's corruption. And this is where the league has a choice to make. It can either protect its reputation with silence and defensiveness, or it can rebuild trust with transparency and reform. Reform starts with accountability. An independent investigation must be launched into the officiating of this series, especially Game 3, where the free throw disparity was undeniable. The league must examine how such a wide margin was allowed to happen and whether referees followed internal guidelines. If mistakes were made, they must be admitted. If biases exist, they must be addressed. Next, the WNBA must overhaul its officiating review process. Too often, there's no follow-up, no clarity, no public transparency about how referees are evaluated, corrected, or held accountable. That needs to change. Clear explanations for controversial calls should be made available. Referees must answer for decisions that sway games. Just like players and coaches are held accountable, so should officials. Additionally, the league must invest in consistent referee training. There is no room in professional basketball for wildly different standards from game to game. Every call, regardless of which team it benefits, must come from the same rulebook, the same expectations, and the same integrity. When that fails, fans lose faith. And when fans lose faith, growth halts. This controversy is not just a PR problem. It's a test. Will the WNBA defend the players who make the league what it is? Or will it protect the illusion that everything is fine? Right now, the illusion is cracking. Because the problem isn't that people are mad. It's that they feel betrayed. They believe this league was about grit, talent, and hard work. But when officiating gets so lopsided that even neutral fans call it out, that belief is shaken. When the coach of a rising team demands an investigation and is met with silence, that belief begins to vanish. And if the WNBA doesn't act now, it risks losing everything it's built. This is the moment where the league proves who it really is. Not just in its slogans or marketing campaigns, but in action. Does it believe in fairness? Does it value transparency? Or does it only care about preserving a clean image at the expense of truth? That's what fans are asking. That's what players are waiting to see. That's why this story won't just disappear. Stephanie White took a stand. She showed what courage looks like. Now the ball is in the league's hands. Will they do what's right? Or will they pretend nothing happened? Because the world is watching. The athletes are watching. And most importantly, the fans are watching. If you believe in fairness in sports, demand answers. Speak out. Share the story. Hold the league accountable. Stephanie White stood up for the truth. It's time we all did. Stephanie White's public outcry wasn't a spur-of-the-moment rant. It was the boiling point of a pressure cooker that had been heating up for years. Anyone who's been following the WNBA knows this wasn't just about Game 3. This wasn't just about one team being shortchanged in a single series. This was about years of accumulated frustration, years of watching the same teams get the benefit of the doubt, years of silence in the face of glaring officiating discrepancies, and years of burying legitimate concerns under the rug of protecting the league's image. This time, the rug didn't work, because when Stephanie White stood up after the game and demanded an investigation, She said the quiet part out loud. She said what other coaches were too afraid to risk. She said what players have only ever hinted at in vague interviews and cryptic social media posts. And she did it on the record. That kind of leadership doesn't happen often. But when it does, it shakes the foundation. And that's exactly what happened here. Her words sparked something, not just in the locker rooms and arenas, but across the basketball community. Commentators, retired players, current athletes, and thousands of fans began voicing what they'd felt for a long time. That certain teams, certain players, and certain narratives are being protected, while others are being sacrificed. The 31-shot free throw disparity wasn't just a number. It became a symbol. It became the proof people were waiting for. It gave shape to the suspicion. It turned whispers into roars. Let's be clear, refereeing is a hard job. In any professional sport, officials have to make split-second decisions under immense pressure. Nobody expects perfection, but what people do expect is consistency, objectivity, and fairness. And that's where the WNBA's officiating system has repeatedly failed. This isn't the first time. Past seasons have seen their fair share of questionable calls, missed fouls, and suspicious reviews. But what separates this moment is the timing. The league is at its peak in terms of public attention. More eyes are on these games than ever before. Star power is exploding. Viewership is climbing. Social media is driving engagement. And with that visibility comes accountability. You can't hide anymore. A bad call used to vanish into the night. Now it lives forever online, clipped, slowed down, compared, and shared by millions. Every missed foul is a headline. Every questionable whistle is a debate. So when a coach like Stephanie White speaks out, the league has two options. It can listen, or it can dismiss. But ignoring this controversy would be catastrophic, because this is about more than a playoff game. This is about the soul of the league. This is about protecting the purity of the sport. If fans begin to believe that results are predetermined, if they start thinking outcomes are more about brand protection than athletic performance, then it's all over. And let's not pretend fans don't notice the double standard. Why do teams like the Aces always seem to get the calls? Why does it feel like the league is more invested in protecting its star franchises than in protecting fair play? The Aces are talented. No one questions that. But talent doesn't need help. And when that help shows up in the form of biased officiating, it taints everything. It diminishes the hard work of every player on the court. It cheapens the game. And it tells rising stars like Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hull that no matter how good they are, they're playing against more than just their opponents. They're playing against the system. That's what made this series so heartbreaking. The Indiana Fever didn't just show up, they rose. They played physical, disciplined basketball. They earned every bucket. They fought through injuries, fatigue, and pressure. And they kept it close despite the imbalance, despite the whistles, despite the silence from the officials. That resilience should have been the headline, but it wasn't. Instead, the focus became, where did the Aces get 31 more free throws? That question doesn't go away. It lingers. It infects every future game. Every call gets second-guessed. Every whistle becomes a point of suspicion. And once that happens, the game stops feeling real. This is what Stephanie White was fighting against. She wasn't trying to start drama. She was trying to preserve the legitimacy of the sport. She was speaking for her players, her staff, and for every coach who's ever sat quietly and watched injustice unfold without recourse. And what's even more troubling is the WNBA's silence in the aftermath. No investigation, no review, no accountability. That silence speaks volumes. Because inaction is a decision. It's a decision to protect the image over the integrity. It's a decision to prioritize public relations over competitive balance. And that's a choice that could destroy everything the league has worked so hard to build. You can't grow a sport on a foundation of doubt. You can't demand loyalty from fans while ignoring their most pressing concerns. You can't push merchandise, tickets, and TV deals while sweeping corruption allegations under the rug. Stephanie White gave the league a chance to do the right thing. And right now, that chance is slipping away. This isn't just about correcting one game. This is about overhauling the entire officiating system. It's about implementing real, enforceable standards. It's about transparency. reviewable fouls, post-game explanations, independent oversight, referee accountability. And it's about trust. Trust that when two teams step onto the court, the only thing that determines the outcome is performance, not favoritism. If the WNBA doesn't fix this now, it sends a message that echoes beyond this season. It tells fans, we don't care what you saw. It tells players, your effort doesn't matter. It tells young athletes watching at home, this league picks winners. Is it the legacy the WNBA wants? Or will it be the league that learned, adapted, and emerged stronger? The window is closing. The longer the silence drags on, the more permanent the damage becomes. This isn't just about Stephanie White's press conference. This is about everything that came after. And so far, what's come after is nothing. No response, no explanation, just silence. But silence doesn't heal wounds. It deepens them. Right now, players, coaches, and fans need something else. They need a signal that fairness still matters, that integrity is non-negotiable, that the league will not tolerate outcomes being manipulated, intentionally or otherwise. Stephanie White wasn't emotional. She was clear, measured, and direct. She said what needed to be said. Now it's the league's turn. They can hide behind press releases, or they can confront the issue head-on and rebuild the trust that's been shaken. Because if they don't, every future game, every whistle, every playoff, every buzzer beater will come with an asterisk. A quiet voice in the back of the fan's mind whispering, was this real? That is the death of a sport, and that is what's at stake. So for the WNBA, this isn't just a controversy. It's a reckoning, a moment of truth. You either protect the game, or you watch it fall apart. Now is the time for action. Stephanie White did everything right. She didn't rant. She didn't hurl insults or storm off in a fit of rage. She didn't lose her professionalism. She stood up, looked directly at the cameras, and told the truth. Calmly, clearly, forcefully. She asked for something any decent league should have already done on its own. A transparent investigation into officiating that, by all statistical and visual evidence, failed the integrity test. But what did she get in return? Nothing. No acknowledgement. No accountability. No assurance to players or fans that the league takes fairness seriously. Just silence. And in that silence, the outrage has only grown. Because people aren't stupid. They see what's happening. They see the patterns. And they're tired of pretending this is okay. You can't build a thriving league on rigged optics. The WNBA is not some underground operation. It's a professional sports league with national TV deals, corporate sponsors, record-breaking attendance, and a growing global audience. That means the rules matter. Consistency matters. Integrity matters. If you break those foundations, you don't just hurt the losing team, you hurt the entire league. Every fan who sat through that semifinal game saw it unfold in real time. They didn't need the post-game stats to feel it. They knew the Fever weren't getting the same treatment. They watched Aaliyah Boston get body-checked with no call. They watched Lexi Hull take contact driving to the rim without a whistle. Then they watched the Aces walk to the line over and over for far less. That kind of discrepancy can't be explained away as just how the game played out. It doesn't pass the eye test. It doesn't pass the stat test. And it doesn't pass the gut test. And this is where the league's leadership is failing miserably. In any other professional sports league, an officiating controversy this blatant, this statistically outrageous, would trigger internal review. Not necessarily because anyone's accusing referees of match fixing, but because transparency is how you maintain legitimacy. The appearance of impropriety is enough to warrant action. That's how you reassure your players, coaches, and fans that the outcome of a game reflects performance, not favoritism. So why hasn't the WNBA done that? Why hasn't there been a formal announcement that Game 3 is being reviewed? Why haven't fans been given a basic breakdown of how such a staggering free throw discrepancy occurred? Why hasn't the league shown even the slightest interest in protecting the perception of fairness? Because the longer they delay, the more they prove Stephanie White's point, that when push comes to shove, certain teams are protected, certain outcomes are desired, and the rest, they're expected to shut up and play. That's what's so dangerous about this moment. The erosion of trust doesn't just happen all at once. It happens call by call, game by game, silence by silence, until eventually the whole thing collapses under the weight of its own hypocrisy. And right now, that's where we're headed. Think about what this does to a locker room, to a team like the Indiana Fever, who fought their way to this stage with grit, toughness, and a relentless belief in themselves. Think about what it feels like to go into battle every night knowing that even if you execute the perfect game plan, it might not matter. Because the whistle's already been decided. What does that do to motivation? What does that do to the culture? More importantly, what does that do to the next generation of talent watching this unfold? What do young girls, dreaming of one day playing in the WNBA, learn from this moment? They learn that the game isn't always fair. They learn that politics, marketing, and media narratives can matter more than skill, effort, and hustle. And that is the exact opposite of what sports are supposed to teach. That's why Stephanie White's courage matters. Because she didn't just call out bad officiating, she called out a broken system. And she put the league in a position where it could either evolve or expose itself. Right now, it's exposing itself. No explanation, no apology, no investigation. That silence is louder than any whistle. And don't think other coaches aren't watching. Don't think players aren't having quiet conversations behind the scenes. Don't think agents and sponsors aren't asking questions. Because they are. This isn't going away. You can't PR spin your way out of this one. Not with clips going viral. Not with fan trust eroding in real time. Not with major media voices calling attention to it. The only path forward is action. A real investigation. A full review of the game. Public accountability for the officiating crew. A statement from the commissioner acknowledging what fans saw with their own eyes and committing to reforms. And it can't stop there. The league must implement systemic changes to ensure this never happens again. That includes transparent post-game referee reports. That includes independent officiating review panels. That includes public explanations for key calls during high-stakes games. Because the WNBA doesn't just need better officiating, it needs trust. And right now, that trust is broken. Stephanie White was brave enough to say it. Now, the league must be brave enough to face it. Because if they don't, if they continue to ignore the calls for reform, then this moment won't just be a controversy. It will be a turning point. One that defines the WNBA not by how it grew, but by how it failed to protect the very athletes who made that growth possible. Athletes who gave everything, who bled for the game, who believed the scoreboard was sacred. And if that belief dies, the league goes with it. So here's the message to the WNBA. The clock is ticking. Your players are watching. Your fans are waiting. Your credibility is on the line. Do the right thing. Investigate. Reform. Rebuild trust. Because the game deserves it. And so do the women who give it everything, every single night.